Hello, and welcome to Results Washington's Reflection Series. This interview series is designed to shine a spotlight on the continuous improvement efforts taking place across our state's enterprise. We explore not only the impactful projects driving these changes, but also highlight the incredible subject matter experts and sometimes the leaders behind them. Together, we hear their stories, including their achievements, the challenges they faced, and the invaluable lessons that they've learned along the way. I'm Talia Mazzara. I'm a senior performance advisor here at Results Washington. And today I am delighted to welcome Ms. Megan Matthews, the director of the Office of Equity. She is here to share the meaningful work her office is leading to promote throughout the state. So thank you for joining us, Megan.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, Talia.
Yes, we are excited to have you. Let's get started. To kick us off, can you share a bit about yourself? What's your role and what is your agency's mission?
I am born and raised in Washington State from Tacoma, Washington. And so it means so much to me that our state can serve the needs of every person in Washington State. And we are, as the director of Washington State's Office of Equity, it's a fairly new agency. So we were established in 2020 through statute. But at the beginning of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, so we did not have a budget. Our first director was hired in 2021, and we've been steadily growing over time. Our statute is for anyone who's interested and wants to look it up. And excuse me, I'm coming off of being cold, having a cold, so you might hear it in my voice. But our statute is RCW 43.06D. And how I like to summarize it is that it says we're here to facilitate policy and systems change. And so, how I like to plain talk that is that our office, the Office of Equity here, the Office of Equity is here to change the way that government operates so that we operate in a way that serves everyone in Washington State and that we're here to advance a Washington for everyone, a Washington for all. And so when you think about that, that's huge, changing the way government operates, the way government creates its policies, what its practices are, its actions are. We're here to change all of that. We have an office of 40 team members, and they are all passionate. They're from all across Washington State. We're very lucky to have representation from across the state, Eastern, Central, Western. Um, and we are excited to have an office that is so reflective of the beautiful diversity in Washington State. We believe that if we have an office that has a lot of different perspectives, we can produce better work together.
That's awesome. And if I can ask you, so sometimes, I have set questions I really want to ask you, but then there's some things that you say that kind of spark another question in my mind. So since this agency is relatively new, you just kind of really inspired the question, what was going on at the time or what's been going on to where this office was really needed? And I know that's kind of an obvious question, but if you can kind of go into why now?
Our office was created based on a task force. So this task force did a report and said, here's what we would want an Office of Equity to do, which is beautiful, right? Our office is informed by community members, by state employees, by a big group of folks, and by a targeted engagement across Washington State, which I take very seriously. And I've read that report several times. Um, and that report informed the legislation that gives our office authority, that tells our office what to do. I think, and what we have heard is government is supposed to be of, by, and for the people.
Mhm.
Government is supposed to do things with people, right? But most often, what we hear from people is that they feel like things are being done to them,
Mhm.
for them, instead of with them.
Mhm.
And that oftentimes, when you do things for people, you miss the mark because you don't actually know what it is that they need to live their life. And for me, my story is one of access, right? So my parents, many of us were told you're going to go to get good grades in school, you're going to go to college, you're going to get a good job, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, I know those directions, I'm going to do all those things, right? And um, when it came time to go to college, I'm like, well, how do you what's the process? How do you, I had the grades, I was a well-rounded student. They said all that well-rounded volunteer, work, play sports, all those different things, right? Um, but I didn't know how to
Mhm.
do the application. You have
Mhm.
to, at that time, I don't know if it's still the case, but you had to pay to apply to college. And a teacher helped me, several teachers helped me navigate that process. And so for me, it's hard work, but it's also access,
Mhm. Yeah.
access to information, access to resources that you need to be able to navigate these because it's not easy, it's complicated. You have to know where to look for things. And so, it's so that leads to some folks get access and some folks don't, which
Mhm.
it's not fair,
Right.
right? It's not fair. And so, in order to have a truly fair process, we need to make sure that our systems are set up that anyone can navigate them so that they can achieve the life that they want to live, that anyone can, um, if they want to, right, compete for a certain opportunity. There's several things that the state has done recently that I'm excited about to change our hiring processes, right? So
Mhm.
anyone want to look at Executive Order 2404 and 2405, increasing employment opportunities for people in Washington state government and opportunities for people with disabilities is 2405. And so this is all about understanding that our system, and this is doesn't have anything to do with intent, right? No, people aren't typically out there maliciously saying, I want to keep people out, I want to exclude people out, right? It's just about like when we make decisions about what are the rules for this process, what is this process, that sometimes we make those rules without thinking,
Mhm.
is this creating an unnecessary barrier for people? And so enough people said, our systems aren't working for us, and we want an agency who can come in and help the state operate differently, operate easier, so that anyone who needs to access a service. I mean, you're talking about getting a license, getting a permit. It's not always we think about public services or benefits, right? Sometimes it's things that we all need. How can we create these processes that make it easier for everyone to access and then work hard, right? And
Mhm.
then work hard. So.
I love it. Thank you for that very thorough breakdown. And really, your office's work just touches everything that goes on in the state. Huge, important work. So, thank you for that. As we look ahead to 2025, what are some of the key ways that your team plans to advance this work?
Yes, I'm so excited. So now that we are staffed up,
Mhm.
we have more hands doing the work, right? Our statute is massive, so it really takes enough people doing the work together. And so some of what we're able to do now is to help de-silo government.
Mhm.
And for many of us who work inside government, I've been a state employee, it'll be 17 years, February 1st. So today's
Hey,
January 17th,
thank
February
you for
1st,
your
17 years,
service.
right? And I started at an entry-level position and I worked my way up. So with my experience of understanding that you need access in addition to hard work
Yeah.
and that experiencing and observing the ways that state government works and doesn't work, um, and just being honest about it, right? Like
Mhm.
I said, it doesn't mean that we're bad people, but we have to be honest about the ways that we understand our systems aren't working well.
Mhm.
Because everybody knows, right? So we might as well just be honest about it so that we can fix it. And some of that is that we're siloed. Sometimes within the agency we're siloed, and across agencies we're siloed. And so our office, we have the ability to bring agencies together.
Mhm.
We really worked hard to build good relationships with our team, our our team members. I think we're all a team of the state, and certainly community members, folks who are not a part of do not work for state government see us as one state. We will wear our agencies with pride and say we're this agency or that agency. But when you show up in a space that is not state, everyone just says you're the state. And so we need to see ourselves that way as well and
Mhm.
do better working together as one, especially when we have missions or scopes that overlap together. And so one of those examples we're working on is statewide contracting. As I toured around Washington State, I heard from a lot of small businesses that said, we can't compete in a fair way for state contracting opportunities. And so we brought agencies together and they're like, yeah, we should tackle this. We should do this, right? And it's not that it's the first time it's been done, um, or it's been attempted, right? And so now it's just an opportunity to do this in a holistic way,
Mhm.
um, with more agencies involved. And so we're really excited to work on how we can bring more consistency to our processes so that as small businesses, micro businesses compete for state contracts, that they have some degree of understanding what that looks like, no matter which agency they're working with, because there's some consistency that doesn't require them to hire grant writers or build out their team or have a whole team for that. And they can just focus on doing their work,
Mhm.
whatever they established their business to be. We want to make sure that we are centering the people who are the ones who are going to benefit or be impacted by this. And are we making sure that we're doing this with them so that we, when to devise the solutions, we know it's actually going to work, right? And so with this contracting project, we're doing that with the small businesses so that we make sure when we're devising templates and processes that it makes sense for the folks who are going to have to use this. There's
Right.
nothing worse than creating something that you're really proud of and they're like, thanks, but this doesn't help. This,
Right.
I don't even understand what this is. And nobody wants that outcome, right? And
Mhm.
so it's so important to remember that for a state, our job is always to serve.
Mhm.
Serving, we're public servants, so we're serving the public. So our job is always to make sure that we are doing this in mind and with the people who are going to be impacted by whatever decisions and actions we take and make, um, and that they actually can use it in the way that's intended so that they can achieve and do whatever they need to do with it.
I love it. That's huge. And as you're talking, it's like I can in my mind remember times of, either working with an agency or even before I got to state, if I had to be like a customer on the other side of that process, a lot of those applications aren't so intuitive. So, and I love the way earlier you mentioned, it's not a malicious intent to not consider this stuff. But on the flip side, you're being intentional to consider this stuff with all your work being an equity pause to consider
Yeah.
everything. So I love that. And, thinking about all this work you're doing, accountability. It's such
Mhm.
an important concept, a crucial piece of this effort. How does it fit into the pillars of the work your office is leading?
Oh, it's so important, right? Because if you think about it, if we are here to serve people, serve the public,
Mhm.
um, how can we know whether we're doing a good job if we're not hearing from people,
Mhm.
right? So they have to understand what it is that we're doing and be able to evaluate us,
Mhm.
and then we have to be responsive to that. And I don't think we've yet been able to determine a way to achieve that level of accountability. But one of the ways that we are working on that in our office is through reporting,
Mhm.
um, but through our dashboards. And so it's in our statute that we're to bring accountability to state government through public dashboards. And what that looks like for us, and excuse if I get a little technical, so you can say, hey, Megan, that's too much detail. Okay, we don't want to know about all that. But what we want to be able to say is the state is really good at talking about the things that we've done, our outputs, right? So here's all the activities we've done. Here's
Mhm.
what we did over the course of the year. For me, what is more important is, did it make a difference?
Mhm.
Are people better off because of all the things we did?
Mhm.
And because of the nature of our work, right, we're responding to legislative mandates, reports, things like that. And those things kind of shift year to year, right? Every year we have a session that we're not necessarily always great at tracking
Mhm.
over time. And not only that, but across the enterprise, we're not good at tracking over time. So, if we look at statewide contracting, right? Have we tracked over time to see, have we made a difference? Are more small businesses able to access and compete
Mhm.
for state contracting dollars? So we want to look at the outcomes, and we talk about that as community conditions. You can think about housing, you can think about healthcare, education, these big outcome areas. How
Mhm.
are our systems working over time?
Mhm.
Are they making a positive difference? Um, and being able to bring the data that individual agencies have, bringing those together to understand how is the state overall performing. We want to be able, when we talk about data-driven decision making, we want to understand where are the investments that we need to make
Mhm.
greatest. And we don't necessarily have that system built yet. And so we are working on dashboards to understand what is current state, but also with the data that state agencies have, how can we assess where we're doing as a state, as one state, and working with the Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, their Research and Data Analysis Administration. Really excited to be doing this with them to build out dashboards that are going to be public facing, right? So that people will be able to see how the state is performance to for themselves, so that also our legislators and our governor will have access to those to helpfully inform their decision making as well.
Love it. Just a reminder to the folks listening, identifying gaps. Don't be afraid of it, right? How many times are we hearing what you said, success story here, success story there. But it's important and wonderful to identify gaps because without that, how are you going to be able to map your current state and then get an idea of your future state if you don't even know what it is you need to work on? So that I love that you are focusing on that. You put such a high emphasis on that. Listening
It's
to
the
you,
growth,
it is the
right? It's
growth.
growth. I don't think, you know, I I mean, maybe we could say I'm doing it perfectly, but I mean, if we really thought about it, it's not, some things aren't working. We just have to acknowledge that. People feel that, people are saying that, and we can't say, nope, everything's fine, while the people we're serving are saying it's not working, right?
Absolutely.
There can't be that disconnect, and we can't be afraid of um, growing and learning and improving. And
Hmm.
I think that once I know there's the fear around, well, will we get in trouble? Will I lose my job? What if, the news gets me and, now they're telling about how I messed up. And I think, part of that is just being honest. And,
Hmm.
sometimes there's consequences, right? When we mess up. But I think oftentimes your humanity is revealed
Hmm.
when you say, I tried this, I was attempting, and here's why, and it didn't work, so we're going to make these adjustments and figure out what's the plan, right? How can we adjust? How can we try to do something differently? Also, when we're working with more folks who are impacted, then everyone kind of has that shared understanding about our approach as well. And so I think that it's just the part of, our work is, if we're going to be in this state service, right, then trying to improve advancements in technology, give us the opportunity to do work better and evaluate ourselves better. Um, but I think that it's necessary because we're also, as state employees, we're also members of our community. We're also impacted by the way our government operates, by the way we operate. And so I think that, no, we've got to have that honesty, that authenticity, right? And then folks will be more inclined to believe us. And I think there are studies that show that if you just apologize, folks will be willing to give to believe and forgive and move with you, right? And so I think most people realize none of us are perfect. That's what I have to believe anyway.
Yeah, humility is a huge part of this work. And that's what I hear when I hear you speaking. It's humility and it's exposure of of your heart's desire and passion for this work. I think that oftentimes you'll see people maybe say they're doing the work, right? Modifying processes
Yeah.
and things to look the part, but not necessarily really having their heart in the part. And that's the difference between that heart transformation and modification, right? If your heart
Mhm.
is transformed and working towards the work, then you're actually thinking about these things. You are going to be humble if you realize that, hey, we are missing the mark over here, and
Yeah.
taking that accountability and not being afraid to expose that. And I do agree with you of gaining the trust of the people to be able to speak about concerns of the community, because some folks may not even trust government entities to say, hey, this is what we're going through, because in the back of their mind, I know some people might say, what does it matter? I'm just a person over here. It's not going to change anyway. But when that humility and that exposure of mistakes is there with the mindset of we want to fix this, then that does build that bridge of trust between parties. So thank you. That's awesome. And so also in hearing you, it sounds like policy and legislation play a big role in your efforts. How does your office contribute to shaping or supporting legislation?
Yes. So, when we think about de-siloing the system, so systems change, policy and systems change is the language that's in our statute. Um, we're all a part of the system, across different sectors. So nonprofit, private, philanthropy, local government, community, state employees, legislative branch, executive, judicial, we're all a part of the system. And so we've got to de-silo and work more collaboratively together, right, to produce the outcomes that I think we all want. And so for policy and legislation, that means based on our subject matter expertise. So state agencies, we're the ones doing the work all the time, right? And legislators are hearing concerns, valid concerns from their constituents, from the people who are voting, from their community, and they want to find solutions. And so for us, it means helping to fill in whatever gaps there may be
Mm,
based on the knowledge we know of how state government operates to strengthen legislation. And so as legislators they have questions about what do you think this could look like, wanting to be a bridge, wanting to be a partner, wanting to help them achieve the outcomes based on the intent of the legislation they're drafting. And I think it's something that all state agencies can do. And many already are. And so this is a space that we're also moving into now that we kind of have our first couple of years under ourselves and have a kind of a clear understanding of what it is we're trying to do. We're
mhm,
really excited to be meeting with legislators. I spent last summer meeting with as many legislators as I could, trying to understand what was important to them across Washington State, what was important in their communities, what are things that maybe we could take back to agencies immediately and say, are there things that we can fix here? And what are things that we need policy and legislation for? And begin building relationships across the branches so that we could serve Washington better. This is going to be so necessary for us to achieve the Washington for all that I think we all want. I believe firmly that we all want.
mhm. Your background is perfect. The representative of the people in legislation. Love it. The word equity, it can mean different things to different people. How does your office approach this, and what steps are you taking to align perspectives?
I'm so excited for this. Um, so much of this space is built on theory and academia.
Mm,
Um, when we think about terms like equity, diversity, inclusion, they're important. But oftentimes, there are terms that, unless you have training, certification, if you're not connected to those academic spaces, many folks don't know what that is.
right.
And so, recently we've been doing a lot of terms, it's across state government in general, about plain talk. Make it make sense. Stop sending our forms in legalese. When we send forms, people should know how to complete them, and they shouldn't have to, go get a legal consult to do it, right? So for me, it means that people should need a dictionary to
Mhm.
understand what it is that we're trying to do, to be able to communicate to them in a way that they get it the first round through.
Mhm.
And so when we talk about equity, there's so many different versions because there's a lack of understanding about what it is overall. And so when we talk about that, what our office is here to do, based on what's in our statute, we have really tried to figure out the what is this at the very most simplified term, what does this mean? And so in talking with other states' equity offices, hold on just a second, sorry.
Oh, you're good. Oh, wow, she stepped away. This is so exciting. I hope you all are getting as much out of it as I am, and feel free to go back and rewatch to take notes on some of those statutes and RCW she cited. Such good information.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're
Uh,
good.
so at the very basic level, I use this example. When I was a kid, my mom used to tell me, what part don't you understand? The N or the O? And at that point, I knew it was time to stop negotiating, right? And so I tell that story because we many of us can connect to that, can identify with that, right? And so I say the same thing with the language that you use in state government. If we're here to serve, that means we should be commuting in any ways that people understand.
Mhm.
And so when I was talking to other states, I really loved Colorado, and they used Colorado for all. And I said, oh, I love it.
Mhm.
Can we use that? And they were like, yeah. So we use Washington for all,
Mhm.
Washington for all, right? And so, because oftentimes when I was talking about equity and folks said, well, who is that for? Does that mean
Mhm.
me? Who is it? Somebody and then not me anymore, right? And it's for everybody. And I think that it's just a beautiful way for us to talk about government because government should serve everyone. Government should make sure that people have access to the resources, the opportunities that they need, the power they need to achieve the life as they define it for themselves. And so we're really excited to launch this campaign this year so that we can communicate in a way that makes folks feel brought in, that they belong, right? And you bring those terms in, but in a way that contextualizes in a way that people can understand. And so we just encourage folks to continue using the language in a plain way. Hold on, just one time.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. All right, back at it. So thank you for that. We were talking about, how equity can mean different things to different people and what you all are doing to align perspectives. And I also had a question, because I would imagine that there's a lot of agencies and offices that need assistance with this work. Not everybody understands and grasps how to make their work equitable, how to make processes, applications equitable. And I'm just curious, do agencies know to reach out to you? Do divisions know, hey, when we want to work on this and we're struggling, we can contact the Office of Equity? What is the process either for agencies to reach out to you if they need help, or maybe they don't know that they can reach out to you? Do you all make it a point to connect with every agency and say, hey, this is us, this is what we're here for if you need us? I just out of curiosity, because I don't know how that connection works. How
Mhm.
does that work?
Girl, you was almost trying to put me on the spot here. I see. Okay. I see. Okay. No. Yes, I mean you're absolutely right. Folks, and not that we have all the answers, right? I don't want people to think, oh, Megan, you got all the answers, you know all the thing. I'm just trying. The only thing I believe is that together we can.
Yep.
Because individually by ourselves we can't. So
Hmm.
that's already right. We're already trying that, doing it in our own little bubbles, and it's not working. So I
Hmm.
just believe that together we can. And that means bringing more perspectives together to figure things out and decide on the which path we're going to take. But now that we have our teams and we're laying our internal structures in our office, maturing as an organization,
Mhm.
we are bringing groups together. And so we are launching our Equity Leaders monthly series where we're going to work on aligning our efforts across the enterprise so that we're making sure we're moving forward in the same direction. And that as folks need assistance, they have questions, they can lean on not only the Office of Equity, but on each other,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And so we're excited for that. I'm excited for that. We're going to launch it off next week. Also with the Executive Order 2204, our pair plan and playbook, we're going to bring together the pair agency leaders as well around in a monthly series around how are we collaborating with, and pair really just broken down in a plain talked way,
Mhm.
is government being more relational and collaborative and
Mhm.
doing more things together with each other and with community members, right? So
Mhm.
the stuff that we talked about earlier about how we need to do things with people instead of to them. This
Mhm.
is what pair really ultimately is about. And it's understanding through data which communities are mostly impacted, right? So we can target resources there. It was like we talked about with the data-driven decision making, um, and why we need to understand what's happening across our enterprise. So being able to support agencies in doing the data internally, but
Mhm.
also connecting across topic areas, um, so that we can make better decisions and really see improved outcomes in our government
Mhm.
holistically, right? So we need to be more comprehensive in our assessments in who we're bringing together. We know that folks in different geographic areas feel left out too, right? So demographic and geographic, where you are and who you are. Some folks feel represented and some folks don't. And when we're missing those perspectives, it's actually hurting our ability to do our services well. And so we're excited to be able to provide that assistance to agencies,
Mhm.
that clarity, that support, because that's all important. None of us have the answers, but we're committed to doing better
Mhm.
and leaning on each other and leaning on each other for different expertise
Yeah.
to move forward together and doing it with my big picture vision is that we de-silo the whole system so that across sectors, branches, we're working together to be more effective and efficient, aligning our resources so there's no duplication,
Mhm.
no waste, but that we're clear and we can pivot when we're like, oh, we tried that, didn't quite work out the way. Well, let's pivot, let's move this way. And it does take a long time to pivot when you're big,
Mhm.
I mean, 70,000 employees in state, right? That's
Yeah.
big. It's a big pivot, but we need to be able to do that. And so I'm really excited for this next year
Yeah.
and us being more present and active within state government. And I can only see that we'll continue to do more and respond more to as state agencies say, we need this or we need that.
Thank you. And you've talked a lot about some upcoming work. What are you most excited as your work continues to evolve? What are some things like you are most excited about upcoming in the near future?
So a couple things that I haven't talked about yet that I am very excited about is our communications. And so we've talked about plain talk. And if we're honest, right, government, we communicate in some pretty boring ways.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just boring. It's pretty heavy in legal language. And
Mhm.
so folks don't understand what it is. We rely on websites where information's buried. People have to know it's there, right? Our distribution lists that you already have to know that it's there to be connected with. We don't reach enough people. We're not really proactive in seeking out folks. And some of the ways that for traditional ways of communication without internet, we're not really effective at in communication. So we have a communications team and they are creative, they're excited. I don't really understand all the all the art of communication, but I'm so excited that we have talented team members who do, and they are helping us reach more people in Washington State. We want to be able to, my goal is to connect with everybody because I believe everyone should have access to their government.
Mhm.
That means that we have to find them. We can't make them come to us. We have
Mhm.
to find them because we are here to serve them. And so we hope to create a model that we can build throughout the enterprise. And our communications director, who is incredible, is also going to be working with the other communications directors in the enterprise. And we're hoping that we can support and amplify each other. Together, we have a lot more communication resources
Mhm.
and staff and creativity that we can use to really extend our reach as one government across the state. To let people know about the opportunities that we have. Washington State grants was something I learned about this year or last year. We're in January 2025 now. But Washington State has a generous college financial aid package. And so, but people don't know about it. And so much money went unused last
Mhm.
year, right? Not because people don't want it, but because they may not know about it.
Right.
And if, as someone with not a lot of resources financially, if you don't know that you can afford college, you're not going to go and try to apply for it.
Mhm.
So it's these kind of things right here that if we can connect to folks in a way that's meaningful, in a way that they can understand, in a language they understand,
Mhm.
they can then take advantage of the opportunities and the resources that are available to them, that are already available to them. One other thing I want to mention really quickly is our universal access plan that we want to work on. So, language access, disability access, these are huge, right? As we become a more diverse state, we want to make sure that we're communicating in a language that folks can understand so they can access. We learned during COVID,
Mhm.
right? Some folks may die because they weren't able to access the medical information that they needed, right? And so we are learning and we are trying to become more communicative.
Mhm.
And so with our language access, we are wanting to build some consistency and bring agencies together around that to make sure that we're doing it in a way that people can expect some consistency,
Mhm.
no matter which agency you're working with disability access, making sure that folks with disabilities, doesn't matter if it's a physical, cognitive, behavioral disability, that you have the access to the resource, mental health, right? Access to the resources you need, um, access to the technology you need to be employed
Mhm.
and access to life that you need. And so across Washington State, how are we making sure that what we're doing is consistent? And some of the larger agencies, they have more resources to commit to um, some of these processes and activities, but some of the smaller agencies don't. So how can we make sure that we are taking care of all of our state agencies so that Washingtonians benefit, right?
Yeah.
And so we're really excited for our new team members that we have. They're so brilliant and talented, much more than I could have done on my own. And that is the beauty of having more people in our office. And
Mhm.
so I'm just looking forward to the ways that we are solidifying some of that work. We talked about the pair work, providing agencies guidance, being more relational through our shared power work. And so we're just really excited about all these different opportunities through data,
Mhm.
how important it is to make data driven decision making. And so we're just excited to be able to be a strong resource for agencies um, this year and the years to come, and then just continue building on that layer over layer, because the goal is to facilitate policy and systems change. The goal is to make sure that we are helping to change the way that government functions. We already have the desire. I'm really excited. In Washington State, um, we don't have we don't have the issue of people not wanting government to work well. State employees get into jobs because they want to serve. So we don't have to worry about trying to convince people that this is important or they should care. They already care. I'm so grateful for that,
Yeah.
right? So now it's just about aligning that together
Mhm.
and moving it forward and doing it together and giving ourselves grace, being honest about it, and just continuing to try.
And you are just leading this work so wonderfully, leading by example. Um, have you noticed more agencies having dedicated reps to this work, dedicated offices, or maybe not an office, but just representatives of their agency or their division that are dedicated to this work to possibly maybe talk with your office or maybe come to you for resources so that they can take it back to their office to ensure that the office or the agency is doing this work as well on a regular? Have you noticed an
Oh,
increase in
yes.
that?
Well, since we were established, agencies, individuals, state employees have continued to reach out and ask for assistance and support. We didn't always have the capacity to
Mhm,
provide the support, and that's why for us, it's important to work with the agency representative
mhm,
because, some of we're still an office of 40, 70,000 state employee office of 40. There's no way that we could work with every individual.
right.
So for us, it's important to connect with the agency representative and support them. And
Mhm,
then also work with the agency head, the deputy directors as needed as well. So really just cementing these processes in an intentional way. There's no way we're going to affect change if we're just randomly doing things all over the place, willy-nilly, right?
mhm,
So we need to have a clearer plan and approach for how we want to accomplish our work, how we want to advance our mandate, and the way that we're going to do that is through the agency connections, agency reps, which people have been excited. And so we're really excited when we sent the email to launch the equity series. People were really excited about it and like, yes, we're excited. Please, thank you. That we've been wanting for that. We've been wanting this.
yeah,
And so I'm excited for it too, because I always like getting to get up with people anyway.
yeah.
And I'm excited to learn from them as well.
Mhm. And so, for those inspired by your work, which there are many, how can our listeners stay connected and follow your progress?
Yes. So the easiest way if you have internet, is our website. It's equity.wa.gov. And at the bottom, it has all of our connections through email, our Gov delivery for our distribution lists, our social media, our phone number, and so you can reach out any of those ways. Um, and let me see, just because if you don't have internet, I don't want you to have to, well, I don't have internet, so how am I going to do this? That's not right. So let me just give you, for any of you who don't have internet,
And thank you for that, because it can be pretty presumptuous a lot of times when folks are saying, hey, how can I get a hold of this or how can I learn about this? And it's always something digital.
yes. So our phone number is 360-902-3355. Again, that's 360-902-3355. So that is a way that you can contact us without needing the internet. And we look forward to other ways to connect with folks too. So one of the things we're trying to do is be out and about at events. So if there's an event that you want us to come to, let us know. We have folks who live in Eastern Washington, Central Washington, Western Washington, to the coast, up north. And we always like a good party, especially if there's some food. Okay, food and music, please. Yes. So if you want us to attend your event, we're happy to be there, right? You shouldn't have to navigate some pathway to find us. We want to show up. We want to be there with you. We want to connect with you. Those relationships, those in-person relationships, there's nothing, you can't compare to any other way. And so we're happy to attend those events as well. We have shown up at different events over the last couple of years. We're also going to be doing our annual convening in Spokane this year. So last year we did it in Yakima. That was great. And this year we'll be doing it in Spokane. So part of making government accessible is showing up where people are. So we
Mhm.
can't just host things in Olympia. We can't just host things in Tacoma or Seattle. It's important to do things there as well, but it can't only be there. And so we're taking this, our annual event across Washington State. And I have just enjoyed connecting with folks locally there too.
That is so awesome. So I have one final question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I saw this and I thought I knew this already and then saw it in Inslee's email. But Office of Equity. Is this the nation's first office of its kind?
Yeah, we were established in statute. So we are, I'm excited. Washington State is one of the leaders. Now you're not gonna have me make all the other states get upset with me. So I'm not gonna say we are the best, but you know how I feel about it. But all the other states, I love y'all, okay? Y'all are great. No, we've actually started meeting with the other states too. And so I'm really excited to build, this is breaking down silos, right? So
Mhm.
we are meeting with equity offices around the nation as well. But yes, we're very excited for the office, very excited and grateful for the resources too. We are, I think, the largest office in the nation as well. And it allows us to really do the work that we've talked about already in a um, in more than a superficial way,
Mhm.
right? Systems change means getting to the root of the issue, getting to the problem, not to the some of the symptoms, right?
Mhm.
Not putting band-aids on things. That's like, you got too many leaks in your roof. You just got to replace the roof. Can't put more pails out there, you know?
Mhm.
And so the work that we're able to do because of the investments through the legislature, the support of the governor's office, Governor Inslee, and I look forward to continuing this under Governor Ferguson as well, right? The work and support of community members, the support of my peers, my colleagues like you, everyone across the state. There's so much support of this office, and that is helping us to do the work that we're doing. So I wanted to be clear. We are not doing this alone.
Yep.
None of us could. There's so much support that I'm grateful for. We feel the responsibility that we have been entrusted with. We know this is not done by our own. That it really takes relationships to get anything done in government, right? You can't do it by yourself. It
Right.
really takes everybody working together to make the changes that we all want. And so I'm just excited for this. I'm excited for this opportunity to be a part of this work and to be a team member and provide whatever skills, knowledge, and abilities I can to move this work forward in a way that is meaningful and to where people who are in Washington say, you made a difference. I feel a difference. Government is operating differently and I feel it. That is the feedback that I long to hear.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Megan, for taking the time to share your thoughts, your experiences with us, but for your exemplary leadership. One of my questions was you leading this team, this office, how has it affected you, or not how has it affected you, but what does it mean to you personally? It's such a great achievement. And I think it's obvious in every interview I've ever seen you in, to include this one, you are through and through about this work, and you are such a bold and beautiful advocate of this work. So, thank you for your heart, your passion, and just how eloquently you just laid and broke everything out today. I really appreciate that. And
And let me
this
just
is
say,
awesome.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you. It's personal to me,
Mhm.
right? So I talked about growing up in Tacoma, Washington, went to Lincoln High School, right? Grew up in a family, we didn't have a lot financially. We always had love. We were taken care of. Let me just say that we were taken care of, but we didn't have a lot. And when I talk about access, you can work hard, but without the access, you may not be able to navigate the process to achieve the life that you want. So this work is personal for me because there's a lot of folks who struggle and who work really hard. Let's just say this work really hard and haven't been able to achieve the life that they deserve, that they wanted for themselves. And that happens all across Washington State, right? So for me, this isn't just about me. This is about, and we think about the pathway towards justice, right? Um, it's a long road and there's been a lot of folks who have made, created more opportunity for more people in Washington State and in the nation. And there's still so much work to be done. For me, it just feels like this is my part, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do whatever that I can on this road so that I can say, or I can feel like I did a good job, and I helped, and I opened doors rather than closed them, um, and that's what's most important to me.
And we can see that. I can see that. I think ever since you took this position, it's just been very evident that this is a calling for you. You're just taking this role on beautifully. And I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your work and your leadership. I'm looking forward to all of the exciting work that your office is doing, continuing in 2025. And here's to a good year with Office of Equity. Thank you.
Thank you as well. I appreciate this opportunity.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.